Okay, this is before I'm filming this, like a before and after.
Now we're gonna die because this is found footage.
Is that in the
Nice.
movie? We're gonna watch a scary movie. They've seen it once, and claim that it's the freakiest.
It's not. I mean, it's like
it's
I'd say
mind-blowingly
it's
scary.
maybe like a 9 out of 10 for the scare factor. It's just my favorite horror movie. Like it hits all the bars for me personally.
All right, so we'll check in afterwards if we survive. So we watched The Ritual last night, and we had to wait till morning to be able to talk about it because it was scary. So I'm calling this segment "Spooky Time with Bradford and Bradford."
Wow.
Sounds good. So we're going to talk about The Ritual that's on Netflix, and we are going to talk about spoilers basically. So you should only be watching this if you want us to give everything away, right? Okay. I have a little Bradford and Bradford scorecard for The Ritual and any other scary movies that we talk about because we were looking for not just the scariest movie, but the best movie in the scary, spooky horror genre. So The Ritual.
I think it's this one.
I think The Ritual is going to score high, so it's a good one to start with because we both like it. Im watched it first and said, "You got to watch this."
This was my third time watching it.
So the first category is acting and characterization.
So there's like 4 main people in this movie, and they're all friends, and their relationship is pretty strained. I'd say, what is it, out of 10?
10 being the highest.
I'm gonna say probably an 8.5.
8.5.
I really like
each
character. Each character kind of had like a purpose. So like the most developed character was the main developed character, and he had like depth and stuff like that. Most of the characters had depth. Phil was a little bit lackluster, but he was like the guy that was saying his purpose basically was to be like, he's like the anti-skeptic. Yeah. Which he did really well in. Everybody acted really well, I think.
I think I like that 8.5 too. That's a nice good sort of base level thing. But I was tempted to give them a 9 because everything's pretty understated. It feels like pretty natural acting.
Yeah, it feels like real people.
Yeah.
Other than the fact that Phil is like just there. By the way, I don't think anything is gonna score as high as that because it's horror movies. So like this is like based on like just movies in general, but I think this is pretty high for a horror movie.
For a horror movie, but there's certain movies like where I'd say Misery. Now that's in the suspense thriller genre. So Misery, I think Kathy Bates' performance is a definite 10, with James Caan making it maybe down to a 9, overall. But Kathy Bates is incredible. So there are certain performances in spooky scary movies that are 9s or 10s. Fair. All right, style and tone. So we mean by this like this is the look and the feel of the movie.
I would say 10 out of 10 just because I love the forest. I think it's horrifying and I like how it looks. And also I really like the dream sequences, if you can count them as that, because
That's true.
It like follows the plot very well because the style of the dream sequences changes as the movie goes further and further along, and as they get closer and closer to the inevitable, and the way the monster interacts with them, but nobody else does, and it's very good.
I think it's very good as well. So you gave it a 10. I'm going to give it a 9. I think it's. I guess I'm thinking the movie that has a 10 for the style and the look is The Shining. So the Shining is that's you know what I mean. So things that rise to that, and maybe the only other thing that I could think of rising to that would be maybe Alien, that has a very distinct style and look.
I'm just saying I would take a photo shoot in any shot, any scene of this movie.
Yes, and
I would take a picture and put it on Instagram.
Okay.
Does that count?
Yeah, that's good. No, the movie looks beautiful and creepy in their place, and so I like that.
Things that are scary. Forests.
Yes.
Fluorescent lights. The setting of the movie is characterized, I think, by the cinematography because there's so many shots throughout the movie that generate tension because they flip between establishing shots of POVs or like ultra-wide shots. So it's either the camera is facing the people and then it's blank forest and then you see something move but it's them, or it's a POV of them looking into the forest, so your mind is just, like, automatically tense.
You're so passionate, I'm going to raise mine up to 9.5. All right, next category, visual effects and sound effects. We're morphing those two together. So anything that involves, it could, for a horror movie, it could be like the makeup and stuff, or it could be whatever CGI or puppetry is used. And also like sound effects, monster noises, but also the music. So I will go first. I will give, you know what? I'm going to give it another 9.5.
I love the soundtrack
because the
score.
Well, the music and sound effects are good. Like there's a creepiness that builds. There's nothing about like the score that makes me want to like listen to it again as its own, like, you know, I'm not going to buy the CD
because it's heavily like about the movie.
So,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like one of those scores that isn't a standalone. It's very fused to the film.
But the reason why I'm giving it a 9.5 is because of the visual effects. The monster looks very unique, and it's one of those things where the movies, most of the time, they're not showing the monster or very much of the monster, and so you're thinking like, well, maybe they'll never show the monster. But then when they reveal the monster, I'm like, that monster's pretty cool.
Yeah,
it's cool and it's freaky and it's a weird looking monster I've never seen before.
We might want to think these videos out, because I would maybe rate the acting and characterization higher because of the monster's character design and motives and like development. So
as the monster is part of like the character.
But I don't think I would rate the visual and sound effects just because it's tied together. I really like the score. Yeah. I really like the monster.
I did feel, you know, if we're talking about characterization of the monster, I did want to know the monster a little better. You know, if they're...
That's fair enough. I'm actually gonna give this one an 8 because I like gore.
Oh, you wanted more gore?
Maybe.
Yeah?
Actually, wait.
There were guys against pegged to trees.
Yeah, I forgot about that. I'll give it at 8.5.
8.5. So it was not too bad on the gore scale. The next category is the plot and the themes. You want to give us a quick rundown on the plot of this movie, or do you want me to?
Sure. So the main character has a lot of trauma based on, in this friend group, his friend died, and he witnessed this basically murder of his friend in a liquor store. He hid behind like an aisle, and his friend didn't, and he deals with a lot of guilt and grief and trauma, and basically those are the themes.
Yeah. This was the right level of having... It's good to develop your characters at the beginning. It's great if the characters are grappling with some kind of regret. Exorcist has that. Other films deal with some type of a loss or a regret.
Yeah,
but
I also like the age of the characters, because they're like maybe could start a family, but like, you know, they're too young to die still, but they're not like, you know,
they're not teens. That's true. If this was a story about like 4 teens, like 4 fraternity brothers, it would have a very different feel, and they would probably come off as more idiotic, because they do make mistakes in this movie, but it's forgivable because the reason why they go on their trip into the woods or through Sweden, they're hiking because that's what their dead friend wanted to do. That was his last wish. Was, you know, before being murdered, he was talking about like, hey, let's go to Sweden, we'll go hiking. And so these 4 guys do it in honor of their friend, but they are not experienced hikers, and so they make choices that get them lost into the woods.
Going back to
movie characters make
dumb
mistakes.
The first thing that we talked about. Hold on. I think the plot and the thought process of the main character is very well portrayed in the repetition of the dream sequences, if you can call them that.
Yeah.
There's the first one, that is just like the first like 10 minutes of the movie, and then he wakes up and he's on the hiking trip.
Yeah.
Which is like just like 100% realized, and I think the repetition and like it gets more and more surreal and visceral, and I think that shows that the process of grief, that's like kind of like the denial part of it, and bargaining, and I think that's really cool.
And I also like how we don't quite know, but we can guess about how the monster is able to tap into their psyche.
I think I would give execution of the plot and themes 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10,
I think it's really well explored. I would give the actual like content a 9, just because it's like, I don't know, -1 for like not being my, I don't know.
All right, so we'll give it like
I'd
a
give it a
9.5. We'll give it a
That's my
9.5.
score.
That's pretty good. Let's see. I'm going to give it a 9, but only because it does rely on them making the choice, like, let's go through these woods. There are points where it's like when they make the classic choice, like, well, better go in this cabin, you know, because
I
of course
think it's fun.
I do think it's fun, and it's kind of needed in scary movies
And also,
anyway.
one of my favorite decisions that they make is that they come upon another cabin and then just
That's
like,
true, and they go like, no
and
way.
you never see the inside of it.
Oh, that's right. That is
great.
good. It's like, should we go there? No. Absolutely
keep
not.
walking.
And they
Sometimes
realize
it's a little
that they're
overboard, but not
doing-
in this movie because
Yeah.
it's my favorite and I like it.
Yeah, it's good. I want to know what was one of your favorite scary moments or spooky moments from it.
I really like the part where I think it's the third dream sequence technically, where he sees his friend get hit on the head again, and then all of these things have been memories before, but this time it looks at him and that didn't
Yes.
happen in his memory.
And it has, I don't know if he has a creepy smile on his face, but it was creepy looking.
Well, yeah, the
Yeah.
face was obscured, so it
Yeah,
didn't look like
yeah.
the original like thing that actually happened. And then it says coward,
Yes, that was creepy.
which I think
I
is
think
fun.
the I was trying to remember. I should have written it down when I was watching it, but there was one. You know how there's jump scares sometimes where it's like, "Hey, Fred, Phil, what's going on?" You know,
Yeah.
where they're just like, Fred.
That was
so
actually-
there was like a couple times where I was like, you know.
Yeah, you did that at actually the same time where the dreams, like the lights flipped on. He like, you think it's a bear
Oh,
or
okay.
something, and
That's
like,
right.
he looks out.
Yeah,
and the
so
lights
so
flip
all
on.
of the interactions of the liquor store memory coming back into
It's so
play.
good.
It's good and creepy and some surprising stuff.
So
you
like
know,
the Gale, when he sees
oh,
Gale.
coming out of the woods. That was cool. The a wife character coming out of the woods, but it's really, we know that
And
it's
then
actually
you get
the monster.
like one of the most satisfying, I think, reveals of the movie, of just like
Yes.
full on like face shot of the monster.
Yeah. And I also liked that the explanation of the monster is it's like one of Loki's kids.
It's a god.
It's
Child of
a
Loki.
god. Yeah, it's a child god. So
Yeah.
I just like that it's like, yep, this is, we worship this, you know, the little commune that's stuck out there. I like that the commune, you know, because at first I thought like, oh, it's the Midsommar people. All right, they're hanging out in the woods. One of the people that's stuck in that situation, the lady that I think is one of the former Tinters from the
we
80s.
think it's one of the
She
girls.
says like, well, if you worship him, then you live for, you know, about forever. And then when he goes upstairs and he sees all the husks of, you know, these corpses, and the corpses start going,
And it just goes.
yeah, he lights it on fire. It's like, nope, this is not gonna happen here. Yeah, so I love the reveal of the creepy people corpses that are just getting older and older. So it's like living skeletons basically. So that was creepy. But before all the weird stuff, you know, is revealed, when you know that something bad's going to go on, but you don't know what it is, that's
Yeah.
where it's creepy.
That's
so
good.
there's a shot where nothing, you know, they're walking through the woods, and you think it's their point of view, and so you see like you see the trees, yeah, you see the trees, and you see something moving between the trees, and that's when I'm like, what is that? And you find out it's like, oh, it's the hiker, it's the guys,
Yeah, it's the guys.
it's the guys, because we're just watching them when they're walking through the woods. So nothing. Don't worry, Wade, nothing scary has happened yet.
Yeah.
So
And then
I like those
The
moments
first time, I think it's the first time. I don't know.
where you see a little glimpse of the monster.
Yeah, I think it's the hand.
Yes.
And it's really far away, and it just goes like, it just
Yeah.
takes off this tree, and then you see something big move it. That was my favorite part when I first watched it.
I love building off that. I love the scene where the guy has set fire to the cabin and other things. I like it when characters in horror movies where they get to the point where it's like, yeah, this has been scary stuff, but now it's all, you know, like when they get to a point where they fight back. They're not in flight mode; they're in fight mode. And so I really love being able to cheer for the heroes in scary movies like that. And so I like that he's able to do that. He's able to upset the monster, and the monster's walking around in front of the flames when the cabin's on fire.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
It's a really well done sequence. All right, so the last score we're going to give is for just overall scary spookiness. So I'm going to give it, I think I'm going to give it 8 points because it was pretty scary, but I was able to go to bed without freaking out, and
Yeah.
and in the morning, sometimes really scary movies in the morning, I like kind of wake up thinking like, wow, that was, like it haunts you for a while. And even though I like the thrills and the chills, I don't think that it's not going to linger too much. Although I'd like to see it again.
Yeah.
So what's your score?
I'd probably give it an 8.5. When I watched it with my girlfriend, we scared each other after
You, like,
that
snuggled
and like
up?
during. But yeah, it's not higher because there's no like. Sometimes you get a moment. I don't know if that's just from childhood, but you like get a moment in the movie where you're just like replaying in your mind over and over again. I guess a movie would be a 10 if there was like an image or a scene or a shot that just like stuck out in my mind for a long time.
Gotcha.
And though I was like pretty scared by this movie, there was imagery that stuck with me, but not in like a bone-chilling way.
So an example of that for me, that an image that would be a 10 would in Psycho, at the very ending of Psycho, where
looks up at the camera.
when it's like, I wouldn't harm a fly, and
That's pretty good.
And as a kid, I was like,
He's looking at me.
Besides. All right, so we've done the math
done
on
the
my
numbers.
handy dandy notebook.
Yep.
And so our score is M gives it
9.
All right, so it's a 9
I
average.
like it a lot. It's like
Yes.
one of my favorite horror
And
movies
I've
now.
given it an 8.9, so the grand total is 8.95. So we're calling that an A-. So it's very strong.
Yep.
First review. So we're looking for more scary movies to watch. So if you have any suggestions, leave a comment as to what, not just scary, but scary, high quality, what? No?
I like low quality.
Okay, scary. Yeah, okay, so scary movies. Well, high quality as in well acted. It's got a good plot. It can be cheap and low budget. No? No bad acting? Okay, just
Bad.
whatever. We'll watch some
Bad.
bad ones too.
Bad movies.
All right, till next time. It's Bradford and Bradford, spooky time. Bye. Or should I say, boo?